Okay, this is part 2. I did not question that I loved Gomer, but something about her troubled me. As most young women of her time, she had a love for expensive clothing, jewellery and cosmetics. That I accepted as part of her womanhood. She seemed experienced beyond her years in the ways of the world. Yet, I loved her. It was my father's will that I should marry her. I knew that my burning love for Jehovah would win her from any wanton ways. God confirmed to me that indeed Gomer was his choice as well. I wooed her with the passion of a prophet. God had given me the gift of poetry, and I flooded Gomer with words of love. She responded to my love. We stood together beneath the flower-strewn canopy of the Hebrew marriage altar and pledged eternal love to God and to each other. We listened together to the reading of God's laws of marriage. We heard the reminder that our marriage was a symbol of the marriage between Jehovah and Israel, his wife. I took Gomer to my home. We read together the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. We ate the sweet fruit of its garden of love. She was as refreshing to me as the first fig of the season. Gomer seemed content in the love of God and of Hosea. I looked forward to the future with hope. Shortly after the anniversary of our first year of marriage, Gomer presented me with a son. I sought God's face and learned that his name was to be Jezreel, a name that would constantly remind Israel that God's judgment was surely coming. It was a stark reminder to me of the times in which we lived. After the birth of Jezreel, Gomer changed. She became distant. An essential look flashed in her eye. I thought it a reaction to the responsibility of caring for our son. Those were busy days. The message of God inflamed me, and I cried out across the land. Gomer was soon with child again. This time a daughter was born. I learned from God that her name was to be Lo-Ruhamah. It was a strange name and troubled me deeply, for it meant not loved. For God said, I will no longer show my love to the nation of Israel, that I should forgive her. Gomer began to drift from me after that. Often she would leave after putting the children to bed and not return until dawn. She grew worn, haggard, and rebellious. I sought every possible way to restore her to me, but to no avail. About 18 months later, a third child was born, a boy. God told me to call him Lo-Ami, meaning not my people. God said to Israel, you are not my people, and I am not your God. In my heart a thorn was driven. I knew that he was not my son, and that his sister was not the fruit of my love. Those were days of deep despair. I could not sing the songs of David. My heart broke within me. After Lo-Ami was weaned, Gomer went beyond my reach and did not return. I became both father and mother to the 3 children. I felt blight upon my soul. My ministry seemed paralyzed by the waywardness of my wife. My prayers seemed to sink downward. Then the Lord stirred me. I came to know that God was going to use my experience as an illustration of his love for Israel. Love flamed again for Gomer, and I knew that I could not give her up. I sought her throughout Samaria. I found her in the ramshackle house of a lustful, dissolute Israelite who lacked the means to support her. I begged her to return. She spurned all my pleadings. Heavy-hearted, I returned to the children, mourned and prayed. My mind warmed with a plan. I went to the market, bought food and clothing for Gomer. I bought the jewellery and the cosmetics she loved so dearly. Then I sought out her lover in private. He was suspicious, thinking that I had come to do him harm. When I told him my plan, A sly smile crept over his face.